All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, August 15th Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I do have a couple of quick announcements this evening. First half, on behalf of the Douglas Select Board, I want to thank Steve Zisk for his employment during the past 23 years as our conservation agent for the town of Douglas. Without going into detail, we want to thank you for your service to the community, and we send out our very best wishes to you in your future endeavors. The next one is I just want to thank the Vice Chairman for running a very smooth meeting in my absence. I appreciate you stepping up and keeping the trains moving, so thank you very much for that. That's all that I have, so moving on to Citizens Forum. Is there anyone here for something that is not currently listed on our agenda? Can I get name and address?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Justin Picciarello. I live in Attleboro, Mass., but own property here in town. I saw an item on the executive session of the agenda, and I just wanted to, if I could, just kind of offer a comment.
Which item on executive session?
The Chapter 61.
Chapter 61 parcels on Orange Street. Would it make sense to invite him into executive session to comment on that? Or is it free to do so in
Comment
public?
here, you can't respond to anything he says.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Vice Chair. So I'm in a butter to some of the parcels in question, and I wanted to, actually, before I get into it, just wanted to understand, will that item be in an open session at some future agenda, or?
That's, how would I comment on that, Mr. Bowen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, sir. Executive session matters are to discuss items that can result in a variety of actions, the public discussion of which would be detrimental to the town's negotiating position.
Sure.
It's impossible at this point to comment on whether and when any part of it would become public. I mean, typically at some point, some of it will become public. I'm speaking in very general terms. But certainly at this point, and probably for a little while yet, nothing would be coming out in public.
Okay, so remain in executive session.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I guess maybe that will change my direction here. So I have been following some of the activities on these parcels in question, and recognize that there may be a possibility that there will be a rather large development that might take place as a result of those activities. I have concern of the magnitude of this development potential, and recognize that the town may see some significant benefit in trying to exercise its rights of first refusal on any of the parcels in question and any other parts of these properties. So a little bit of backstory that these parcels are part of a series of plots of land that are in excess of 500 acres in the southeast part of town. There's, I believe, almost 16,000 feet of road frontage associated with them. So, you know, you can quickly do the math and make your determination for yourself in terms of the number of parcels that one might generate for residential purposes or other purposes. So, in any event, I don't think it's appropriate for me to get really far into it, but I do want to offer my support to the town if they should so choose to move forward with their right of first refusal on any of these lots in question. I think it would be a substantial benefit to the community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has anything that's not currently listed on our agenda this evening?
I would just like to say, my name's Kristen, and then I live on Orange Tree, and I agree with him that we would also support the town with their right to first refusal.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing as none, we will move into our first agenda item, which is a public hearing for a poll petition for 114 South Street. Possible votes.
I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to open the public hearing for the poll petition of 114 South Street.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. So the Mass Electric Company, DBA National Grid, and Verizon New England, Inc. is requesting permission to locate poles, wires, fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way, which is South Street, and their ask is to install one JO pole on South Street, installing new pole 48-84 to support existing pole 48 and to serve a new house located at 114 South Street. And the location is in our parcel. And according to the memo, there has been no issues from community development, conservation, or the police department. And Highway is requesting that the pole be a minimum of 3 feet from the edge of the roadway. And do we have anyone from National Grid? Come on up, sir.
Al Galvin, design engineer, National Grid.
How are you?
Good. So it's, as you said, pretty cut and dry, new home going in at 114, set pretty far off the road, so it involves installing 4 poles to feed them, and adding on that weight and tension of lines. We need to support the existing 48 that's on the street, which is where the stub pole comes into play across the street. So they'll put a pole about 3 feet off the street, 3-4 feet off the street, anchor it back, and that's to hold it in place so there's no leaning and disruption of people's services.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak on this that's an abutter to the property? Any questions? All right. Anybody on the board have any questions?
I got a question. The poles are located on this map between the black line and the red line. Can you tell me what those 2 lines are?
Well, this is like the state GIS mapping system. So the red line would probably be the property outline,
Okay.
and then the black is like the town
So
take.
it's definitely within the town easement.
Yes, yeah.
That's all I have.
Anyone else have any questions on this? Okay. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for the poll petition of 114 South Street.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, and then entertain a motion on the poll petition itself.
Somebody else want to do that? Want to make a motion to approve the poll petition?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the poll petition at 114 South Street.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, bud.
All right. So the second agenda item is road use for Mid-State Massive Ultra Trail Event. Anyone here to speak on that or remotely? Hey, Rich?
Mazzola. Rich Mazzola.
Rich Mazzola. Are we muted?
Is he muted?
No, we're not.
We're not.
He is.
He is.
Well, he should be able to hear us, right?
He should.
Concerns from fire or police.
Okay.
Mr. Mazzola, are you there? Patrice, can you do us a favor and unmute yourself and say something if you can hear us?
Oh, Patrice just sent a text. She can't hear us.
So,
It's a fire.
how about now, Patrice, can you hear us?
Sometimes if you stop and restart the meeting, that'll clear it if you made an audio change.
I'll try a different one, one more microphone.
Feel like we rewound to March 2020.
Exactly. Patrice, can you hear us now?
Oh, I just heard it from, he can hear us now.
So you guys need to unmute. if you want to speak.
Rich?
I don't have a lot of options.
Oh, and he just lost audio.
Rich, you there?
Like the old Verizon commercial with the banana. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, hear me now.
There you go. See, can you guys hear us now?
It's his face.
On the chat. Oh, it's the settings and more.
Oh, geez, the lady.
Yeah.
All right, let's try this one more time. Can anyone hear us? No, because we have to unmute and rejoin the meeting. Can you hear us now? Anyone?
There we go.
Let the record show the Avaya guy did not fix the Avaya.
Town administrator.
It's because the town administrator wouldn't
Take credit
relinquish
very
the
little
mouse.
around here.
I wouldn't have given you the mouse either.
How are you tonight, Rich? Sorry about the technical difficulties. Did we lose him again?
Wait, Patrice is, she said all set.
Are you there?
Okay,
All right.
Hurry up and talk, Rich, before we lose you again.
not nice. All right, so,
I'm agenda item number 2, so dealing with race events, mid-state events, so I will wait.
It is your turn.
You're up now, Rich.
so, do you want to get them over the overhead speaker? Go to the device settings, there you go.
Yeah, we don't get all the choices here, we get when we first go into the screen.
Okay. So this is,
Okay, go.
He's just breaking up. I don't think that has anything to do with us.
Is this the same event that we have every year?
Yeah.
Can we just move forward where we have,
Yeah. This is,
there's no concerns from public safety or anything, so.
It's on your memo.
no, yeah, we haven't had any concerns with it.
Pretty free and clear.
Yeah.
What exactly is it? Is it like a mountain bike race or something?
So,
Looks like it's a running race.
Yeah.
Running race.
Three different,
Yeah.
three different portions of it, distance-wise. They're just kind of coming through the state forest, crossing Route 16. Some other streets.
yeah, they run Douglas
Yeah,
Road.
it's just a runners, so they go through
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4,
Douglas
5,
Road,
6, 7,
and then the trail off Northwest Main, then Webster Street.
18 different stops that they go through. Kevin will be running if you want to see him.
That ain't happening.
Make a motion that we approve the Mid-State Massive Ultra Trail Race as presented in our packets for
Second.
October 7th and 8th.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Check my agenda. Process it. All right. So moving on, review and discuss the sign request for Douglas Orchard and Farm and possible votes. Anyone here to talk about the sign? Nobody. Let's see. Is there anything in our packet?
Not from them, there's a copy of the email concern that came in.
There is a letter.
There's
Oh, there's a letter,
from
yep.
Avery.
So as I recall, the sandwich board is not the first time this has been in front of us. So, and I believe it was, the last time it was up by the cemetery, and it was a hard no from the board of, we don't want the sandwich boards. We didn't have any issues with the wooden ones, because we were feeling they match the look and aesthetics of the town, but
We talked about this at the last meeting. It came before us, and they got the original approval, I believe, in May of 2019 for a temporary sign, or it could have been 18. Is it April? Anyways. their original approval was for a temporary sign from April to November, or a seasonal sign, however you want to refer to it as, for their farmers market. And as they explained to Mr. Sokrat, that his business has grown to a point where it's no longer a directional sign, it's become an advertisement type sign. As you'll see in the packet, that's the second email. The first email came in April from the same resident with a concern about these signs.
So, and it's nice to have,
And actually, if you look at the sign, at the minutes from April or May, whenever it was, in 2019, the sitting board at that time was very specific as to the use of the sign, the permission for the sign being 6 feet tall, no more than 18 inches in vertical height for the wooden portion of the sign itself, no longer than 4 feet wide. I would assume that was designed that way to give you 4.5 feet underneath the sign, so then anybody coming up to the intersection would have a line of sight for any oncoming traffic, so.
we're nice enough to have our sign bylaw in here.
That was in the email, yep.
Yeah. Signage should be allowed on memorial squares, cemeteries, telephone utility poles, or shade trees unless it's associated with the normal operation of that site or purpose. Personal opinions, it seems pretty straightforward, and I would be not apt to approve. But that's up to the rest of the board to discuss and deliberate on.
I have no issue with their original approval. What they had for the sign, it kind of fits the character of the town to have the type of sign that they had up there. But you start expanding on that, and you get these sandwich board signs. I inquired with the town clerk because I was curious. There's 213 registered businesses in town, not counting any corporations. Will they be afforded the same opportunity? We could have an awful lot of sandwich board signs around town.
Anybody else have any thoughts on it?
No.
Mr. Bonin, any thoughts?
Not particularly, other than I would say that it's a welcome business in town. It certainly has grown considerably. Sandwich boards might not be the solution, however, I think there is a solution to be found, and I would encourage everyone to get together and come up with something that meets our concerns and can certainly help them as they continue to play an important role in our agricultural history.
And I somewhat agree with that. However, they've gotten to the point where they're recognized. And at what point do you stop doing that, right? So their signs being downtown and being at Southeast Main Street gives people a direction as to how to get there, right? You must turn down the street. But starting to advertise concerts and things like that, you change from a directional sign to an advertisement type sign. You just have to consider if that's the direction in which you want the town to move in. There's already a ton of signs everywhere. They're all over the place. It's not up to us to police the signs. As these complaints come in, we need to address them. Part of that complaint that came in was also addressing the 2 signs that were placed on the town common advertising a business. And that was done as a courtesy because there was a donation, but still I don't feel that any sign should be placed on the town common. It's a war memorial plus the town common. I just don't think they belong there. And if the applicant felt strongly about a sandwich board sign, I would think that they would be here tonight to argue their case.
So do we want to take no action on this, pass over, have them come back in, take a position on it? I'd entertain
It would
motions
be,
either way.
it's before us now, so I'm ready to move forward on it tonight. I don't know how everybody else feels. I guess there's 5 of us, so you're 20% of the way there.
Mr. Smith, any thoughts?
Well, as Tim said, there's got to be some sort of solution, being a small business owner in town, too. I think we should just, not to push it off, but needs a little further discussion to come up with a plan or an agreement for both parties.
Makes sense. Mr. Postma?
I've pretty much fallen in the same position that Mr. Fitzpatrick's in, is once we start allowing things like sandwich boards and all these other things, we got to open it up to all the other businesses in town, because they are using public land to essentially advertise themselves, and I think keeping it strictly as directional signs is probably in our best interest.
So maybe I'm a little confused, because it seems like we're talking about both signs for some reason, in my mind.
No, it was just clarification as to how the original sign, sorry to cut it.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah.
But how the original sign, and they came about, okay? And it kind of fits the character of the town, being a small town, and it's not unusual to see an apple orchard sign or something like that in a town that you go through.
Right.
But when you start putting sandwich board signs up for concerts and things like that, it doesn't really fit the character of the town. And if, I have 2 corporations, so
I agree-
if we're
I
going to
agree
put up
with-
sandwich board signs, I'd like to apply for 6 for each, so I could strategically put them around.
No, I
I'm not
agree with
trying
the
to be
sandwich
smart
board.
about it, but
No, no.
that's what's going to happen. You're going to open the door, and how do you say no to somebody else when you allow one person to do it? That's
Well,
where my head is at.
from what I'm understanding is it was a temporary, a seasonal sign in the first place. So we,
And
Are
that
we just
wasn't
going
adhered,
after the-
that wasn't adhered to. It never came down. It was supposed to go up from
So that's
April,
why-
come down in November.
So are we talking about both signs, or are we talking about the sandwich board?
I believe the application is
Just for the sandwich board sign, the other sign never got addressed.
All right, so I'm opposed to the sandwich board. And yes. But there's got to be a solution to it.
I'm opposed to bringing up the idea that it's year-round. What's done is done in that respect.
Correct.
Sandwich board, okay. I think there's a solution underneath that sign itself to maybe add some nimble language, maybe via chalkboard or something. But the sightline isn't a concern of mine. I run that by the police department. But, you know, that ship sailed on April 14th, 2019, in my opinion.
No, the approval was given then, but the ship didn't sail at all because the approval was never adhered to. So ignoring what the approval was doesn't grant you just a permission.
No, if I recall, that was a conceptual thing, and as, you know, everyone knows, the concept and reality turned not necessarily to be the same thing. I think the sign that we have there is more, it was designed with quality in mind, and, you know, the harsh elements of New England, and it was the most feasible thing to have the best sign. So, yeah, it's there. You want to take down the agricultural sign, go ahead.
Actually, that's not what the discussion is tonight. The discussion is for the sandwich board sign. But if there's going to be any amendment or extension to the original permit to that wooden sign, if we're going to talk about this wooden sign, then that's a different application that would come before us. So as far as the sandwich board sign, that's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, so for clarity, if, what we have in front of us is, are we going to approve or deny the request for the sandwich board to be placed out there? So, you know, if there's additions, or if we want to start discussing, like, the original intent of the sign that's currently in place, the permanent one, or what's supposed to be seasonal, we can do that on a separate agenda, but let's try and reel it in and just focus on the sandwich
Yeah.
board for this evening.
So for the sake of reeling it in, you have I believe 2 members that said they have no problem moving forward tonight. So I guess you continue on and see if the rest of the body feels that way. If not, then I guess you table it.
I'm prepared to vote.
Yep. All right. So I'll entertain a motion on the application for the sandwich board.
As I do in zoning, everything is always in a positive. So I would make a motion to approve the sandwich board sign for Douglas Orchards. And he actually has 2 different locations. He has end of Depot Street and Southeast Main Street, per his request. I believe that's on him. Yes, 2 existing locations.
So you're voting to approve so we can keep the signs in place?
You always do everything in a positive.
I'll second.
Okay.
So it's from April to November.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing is none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed? Aye.
Opposed.
Opposed. All right. So we are not approving a sandwich board sign for Douglas Orchard and Farms. Lisa, if you could let Mr. Sokrat know, and perhaps we can find something else that might work under his existing signage. All right, Douglas Pickleball, request to put a storage box on town property and possible votes. And I see the folks from Pickleball here.
Yes. How's everybody this evening? First, I want to say thank you for allowing us to proceed with pickleball outside. It's been very successful. As people come to the town hall for other business, they've been coming over, stopping over, and we've gotten a lot of new members from Douglas from that. As we are growing, we'd like to be able to store our equipment outside instead of carrying it inside and outside or bringing it in our vehicles every day. So we'd like to be able to maybe overbuy the current trailer that's over there, be able to buy a job box. It's a 48-inch job box, approximately about 3 feet high, maybe not even 3 feet high. It's a 24, 48 job box. That will fit all our nets and balls and stuff in that. We'd like to be able to have it over there and secure it. Maybe buy a cement block that would put in the ground and put a chain around it to secure it into the ground there. We initially wanted to put it over here by the charging stations. We understand that's not allowed to happen because of an agreement. So if we could put it over in that area, if you guys would approve that, that'd be greatly appreciated before we proceed and purchase one.
Seems fair.
When you say over in that area, is that over in the police department area?
Yeah, by their trailer over there, we have a porta-johny out there right now, maybe between where the trailer is and the porta-johny, or maybe even closer to the fence. It's not very level there, so that's why we said more towards the porta-johny area over there.
Mr. Administrator, was there any conversation with the police department about that? No. That would be my only concern is have their input to make sure that there's no issue.
My bigger concern is, or my concern, not big, I have a different concern. The highway department usually stores the snow blower somewhere over on that side of the fenced-in area. I think it's been removed for service, maybe it's painting. Can we just check with John or with Adam, make sure that you're not going to
Okay.
be in their way of travel?
All right, and if that location isn't fine, we could put it on the other side of the courts, on the other side, if that's more feasible for everybody.
Easiest thing to do. So near where the Berkowitz dumpster is, only closer to the fence?
Yeah, more towards the woods area. We wouldn't want it like
That we could-
Right.
that visible. We were just hoping to be closer where somebody could keep an eye on it.
Approved
But-
based off of feedback from...
Either way.
But we
While
could
you were
just,
talking about that, she actually suggested a location.
Yes, I heard that, down on the other end of the...
if that's easier for everybody, I mean, we wanted it to keep it close where somebody could keep an eye on it. The equipment is expensive, and we don't want it to disappear, even though it is going to be locked and hopefully bolted down into the ground. People do what they do, so,
Blocks only keep honest people out.
right, so, with my background in law enforcement, I know what people are capable of, so. So whatever you guys suggest, we'll go with that. If it's a matter of us discussing with the highway as well as the police, I can go forward with that as well and speak to them, see if it's okay with them.
Is it urgent today, or would 2 weeks make a difference to you?
Well, I mean,
I'm just asking.
it's not urgent. I'm not going to say anything's urgent.
Well,
I'll
just
keep
so you-
putting them in the back
just
of my
So you
car.
could have that communication and clear that up, it would be a lot easier and cleaner for everybody.
Okay, so you want me to go and speak to them, or you guys, or,
I don't know if that's necessary.
Okay.
We overcomplicate some things, right? So I make a motion that we allow the good Douglas pickleball people to place a storage box on town property, consistent with the wishes of highway and the police.
I'll second that.
For location.
Yeah, so a final location will be determined, coordinating with those guys.
after the discussion. Yes,
Okay.
I'll take care of that.
That makes sense.
That way you get going on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
So I have a motion that's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? No. Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'll abstain.
Abstain. All right. You're all set.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your time. Come on over and play. Always welcome.
Okay. Patrice, can you hear us? No, she's just staring at me, like, right into my soul.
Look at those eyes.
She can't hear, and it's,
All right, she's not awake.
And she was just talking.
I thought I heard something.
No way. There's Patrice.
And I
That's what it looked like.
called right collar. I don't think.
Yes.
As long as everybody's very, very quiet.
As long as we stay very quiet.
I can hear you from my phone, but I can't hear you from my computer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me tell her.
Do I still have a phone in here that we could just put on the table? That the microphone should pick up?
Call him, I'll speak
I
up.
think Lisa's
I
message.
can't call her because my phone dies. Right, I'll try.
All right, hold on, I can. I got
Kevin's
good
gonna
battery.
call on the bio line.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, and once in a while I get a little bit of volume on the computer, but
She gotta mute her.
keep going back and forth to the last name.
She's gonna have to mute her.
Yeah, you're gonna want to mute your Avaya Spaces?
I did. Yep.
She's turned her speakers off.
Yeah, actually, and turn your speakers off on your computer. That seems to have done it. Not really.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm gonna make this easy.
There we go.
There we go. Now I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. So Patrice, we are here to review the job description and pay rate for the Council on Aging van driver and possible votes.
Yes.
So fill us in, my friend.
So the van is in the parking lot. I'm sure you've all seen it. We're very, very excited about it.
And
It's beautiful. It came up from Indiana yesterday.
we had our picture taken in front of it tonight, Patrice, just for you.
Oh, lovely, lovely. So I would like to post the position because we're going to need 2 part-time drivers and potentially a per diem driver, just to make sure that we always have coverage. I have the posting. I have talked to Mr. Wojcik about the pay rate and the step. I have submitted the job description, and I compiled that based on a lot of other senior centers that already have vans in their job descriptions, and then tweaked it to match what Douglas would need.
Okay.
So we're all set to go. I just want to be able to post it so I can get some drivers in, because there's an awful lot of training that's involved in this. You have to have 8 hours of CPR and bloodborne pathogens for the state. We also have to have the MARTAP training, which means that we have to learn how to use the lift and how to secure a wheelchair. And there's many other online videos. My staff included is going to be taking the training. And I have it set up with the state for September 26th. So time is kind of the essence to get it posted and get some drivers hired so we can get them trained for whenever we're ready to go.
All right, and Patrice, I'm going to actually hand the phone over to the vice chairman because my wife is one of the potential applicants for the position, so it's best that I recuse myself from this part of the meeting.
Okay.
Just keep it in front of the mic.
Is this a regular phone?
It's an iPhone from a buyer.
Not a U phone?
Phone's working fine.
30 seconds, Kevin walks really slow.
That's really funny.
Okay, Patrice, go ahead.
So I have had quite a few people reach out to me already about the position, knowing that the van was going to be coming, including Kevin's wife, Tina. And I have a gentleman that lives over at Riverbrook who asked, and I had somebody else message me the other day that said they would be interested in filling out an application. So I don't think we'll have any problem finding some really good candidates for the position and some really nice, dependable people with good backgrounds. So I'm very excited about that.
Matt, who hires this position? Will this be Patrice?
Technically, I'm the appointing authority, but I defer these decisions to department heads, and I sign off after they do their interview process.
Mr. Administrator, is this the rate of pay that we've set from in the past, or is this going to be a change?
So the habit we've gotten into in the past is that when a job description is changed or a new position is created that needs a new job description, the job description is brought to the Board of Selectmen for approval, because as far as I'm concerned, it's basically a policy document. You're setting the policy for what that role is going to be. And then under the special act that creates the town administrator's position and the finance director's position, there are provisions regarding the personnel director's authority. And in this case, we are going to assign a temporary wage rate until town meeting has the opportunity to act upon it in November. So if we have somebody come on board, we need to pay them. This position is in the budget. It was part of the budget approved in May. The pay scale was changed due to comp reform, so it's on the miscellaneous scale. We're going to step this person in at a miscellaneous grade 2, step 8, which is $18.55. So that is specifically for the select board to approve, that rate.
You have anything else you want to add, Patrice?
No, just thank you all for your support on the bus. The seniors are really, really excited about it, and we're ready to get underway with it.
Does anybody have any questions for Patrice? No. Entertain a motion to approve the rate of pay.
I'll motion to approve the rate of pay for the Adult Social Center van driver.
I'll amend that motion to include the job description presented in our packet.
I'll second.
All I need is a second.
Yeah, I seconded.
All
Sorry.
right. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Patrice.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Who wants to get the short straw? You?
Say that again?
I said, who wants to get the short straw? We uploaded some pictures on that for you.
Nice. Hope not like the last ones you sent me, Mike. All right, excellent. Moving right along. So we're on to the flag policy for town buildings, second reading. Has there been any changes since the first reading?
No, just the deletion of the ceremonial flags as we discussed in the last meeting. I see that's out of there, which is good.
All right. Well, then there is nothing for us to do there. I was told by Lisa that we can skip over number 7 for this evening, which brings us to the ever so fun number 8, the administrator's report.
Number 8 is very special to me. That's Carl Yastrzemski's number that was retired. It's the only jersey I own, number 8,
That's why we made sure the agenda put you
at number 8.
at number 8.
It's next to John Paul's picture above the mantle, there's Captain Carl's. I'll try to go through bullet points very quickly. The town will likely be the subject of a Worcester Telegram and Gazette story regarding the warehouse construction and the project, the utility project associated with it that included bringing natural gas into the town at a time when that is a controversial decision politically at certain levels of government. Our story has been very consistent from the beginning. It is not controversial at this level of government. We have a job to do, which is to develop the economy and provide a way to support the town's ongoing operations, provide jobs for our residents, and to participate in the more general modernization of the economy. So notwithstanding what carbon footprint the building adds, it takes away a significant amount of gas emissions into the atmosphere, because now, instead of having 50 people make trips to a store, one truck is making a trip to 50 homes, and it is a substantial net positive benefit. So this story, I believe, is going to be much more detailed. The reporter asked much more direct and detailed questions than the Globe reporter did. So there will be a lot more, the differences of opinion will be much more stark, and the reader will be allowed to make their own choices. But as the interviewee for the town, I made it abundantly clear, I think, for our story, is that, there were a number of minor factual mistakes in the Globe story that needed to be corrected. The one that I'm going to continuously put in front of people is that the theory on the part of some people is that the town, Eversource, and the developer CRG somehow conspired to make the natural gas application some sort of secret, which is patently false and actually absurd on its face. The natural gas franchise application is a public process from the beginning to the end. So once the application is filed, there's a process called discovery, in which all documents are provided to all interested parties. A hearing officer swore in witnesses in public and heard public testimony from our legislative delegation, as well as town officials, both elected and appointed.
And opponents testified
And
against
opponents testified against it. And the hearing officer ruled most of that testimony out of order, because it didn't deal with the specifics of the application. The Attorney General's office, and this is the most notable piece of it, did not oppose the Douglas franchise application. So then Attorney General Healy chose not to take a position on this, and her only public position on the Douglas project was to support it, because Mr. Menarick put her on the hot spot at a Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce breakfast where she pledged to help Douglas. So as far as we're concerned, from the top of government right through the middle level of government, we did our homework and we got the support we needed, and everything was approved in public. There's some failure to understand, I think, on the part of some who only are seeing snippets of emails out of context. Eversource asked that we not discuss the application in public until 60 days after the project began. And that, like I said this last time, I'm saying it again for emphasis. There's nothing wrong with that. The first 60 days of the project were to extend the natural gas line within the towns of Sutton and Uxbridge from Oakhurst over to the Blackstone Valley Logistics Warehouse. The entire area is already franchised for natural gas. There was no permitting necessary from DPU to run that gas line. So for the first 60 days of the project, Eversource was trying not to be stymied to do the work they're allowed to do by anybody who might be opposed to the Douglas piece. So when they got to the end of that project and the T was set up to go into Scannell's project, the work stopped. And there was no gas line run anywhere in Douglas until after our franchise was approved. If you think about it from the gas company's perspective, it would be stupid to work for 60 days and run a line into Douglas and then be denied and have to dig it all. That just doesn't make any sense. So the entire theory is bogus. So that's a general drift of what we tried to do in this story, which is use facts to support facts, and hopefully the story will be completely focused on the facts. As far as other events in town that are going on along with this project, you'll notice all the walls are up on the cubes at Gilboa. Bridge work is coming to a close, and the roof is going up on the structure. They are still very much on track to have this building opened up late this fall. We are working as hard as we can to work with our granting agencies to clarify some of the funding streams to free up money that's basically being held in contingency for parts of the project that are already completed. So if you follow me here, a contingency is what you use to fund some overrun in the project. And you build that into your budget so that if you have that overrun, you do a change order and you go ahead and finish the project, you've already budgeted the money. Once the underlying work is done, the contingency is still there on paper. And you can't take that back until you close the project and accept the work. So we are working with our federal and state granting agency to try to move that money from one appropriate place to another appropriate place in the project ledger so that we can get the paving done as quickly as possible. I'm well aware of, even though I don't participate in social media, of social media traffic around the condition of the roads in town. I think that's largely driven by the trench work that's been done on Gilboa and North Street. People traveling in and out of town have to deal with that twice a day at least. And we're on it. We know that we need to hurry up and get this done. We want it to be done before the winter. And it's just a matter of making sure our funding sources sign off on that proposal. As I mentioned previously, and it hasn't stopped, I mentioned previously 2 weeks ago, and it's still true today, we are going through the procurement process now. So all of the funds that were approved by Main Town Meeting and our ARPA projects are being pushed out the door. So that's very detailed work. I'm not going to bore you with that in my report. But the procurement went out for the dump truck on a statewide contract, so that's a new snowplow. We've also pushed through the contract for the sidewalk tractor that was approved by town meeting, and the car one, so-called, that was approved from ambulance receipts account. So all of those procurements are out, and we're just waiting for product to be delivered. We've also secured the assistance of Weston & Sampson with the architectural component of the HVAC project at the fire station. So we're looking at making some minor alterations inside the building to change the way air flows, and the mechanical engineer was not qualified to do those shop drawings and doesn't have the right license, so Ritchie asked that we use our house doctor, so-called, Weston & Sampson, who have graciously agreed to add that to their plate. As far as the rest of the work, much of it will be discussed in executive session. We are still working on goals with department heads, so I'm hoping for our next select board meeting to have a rough draft of all the goals in the different departments. I had asked, and I guess this slipped through, but maybe it's for next meeting, we will start hearing from departments. I'm just going to go one at a time at each select board meeting leading up to the budget process, so you feel greater connection. I heard Selectman Bowen's comment loud and clear. I appreciate it. I thought I had asked the chief.
Police will be at the next meeting.
So chief,
That's confirmed.
the police will be at the next meeting. They're not here tonight, but we'll get that going. At least for the major, the really big accounts, we can spend a fair amount of time talking to them. So that's where we stand. Now, my last but not least, I'm grateful to Mr. Zisk for his long-standing and outstanding service to the town of Douglas. being a conservation agent is a very detailed job, right? So there's a really long set of regulations. You have to be familiar with the town, you have to know where things are located, you have to be willing to walk around out in the woods, find your way, and analyze other people's work, and do enforcement, which is a very difficult job. I think people underestimate what our building commissioner, Concom agent, and other enforcement officials deal with here in town, having to say no to people. And, you know, Steve balanced saying no with saying yes, or giving people helpful advice in a very professional manner. That's how we managed to be here for 23 years. With every downside, there's an upside. And many years ago, in order to save money, the town of Douglas reduced the Concom agent job to a part-time job, which was not going to sustain a family. So Mr. Zisk had to find employment elsewhere as a full-time employee, and he did his part-time work here at nights and on weekends, which is not when we're open. So the opportunity we have here now is to change our service profile and make that particular function of town more accessible to customers walking into the building when we're open during the day. So that is a goal of the process going forward. It is my intention, Mr. Chairman, to hire a well-known consultancy to work for the town for about 60 days on a contract that is worth below $10,000. So it does not need to be procured. The rule from Chapter 30B is sound business judgment practice. So we were going to use, basic reasoning is, this firm is presently providing conservation services to the town of Sutton. So our fellow community just to the north of us, and thus is going to be in the general area, has the capacity to help us right away, which is a very important thing, and has really significant qualifications. So for those 60 days, most of the cost of that service is going to be borne by the applicants through the so-called 53G accounts where the applicant pays. We pick the consultant, the applicant pays them. But in terms of office hours and attendance meetings, we will be paying that person their hourly rate to be here, and that will be town funds. So the project right now is to line up what available budget there is to get through November. When we go to November town meeting, we'll be asking town meeting to transfer money from the compensation line to the expense line. So no, not new funding, just moving. The thing we cannot do on our own authority, either the select board or Gene or me, we can't do it, neither can the finance committee, is to move money that town meeting approved for compensation into the expense line for professional and technical services. That has to be done by town meeting. So we'll have that proposal ready. We will probably take a two-pronged approach. This is a very difficult field to recruit in. So we will post the position and see if we get any applicants. At the same time, we will also post an RFP for a longer-term consulting contract that is required to be competitively bid. And we will compare the results of both of those processes and pick the solution that's best for the town. If there's any questions about that, we can go over it. There's nothing final about that right now. This concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. So are there any open session topics not reasonably anticipated 24 hours in advance of this meeting? 48 hours, sorry. Seeing as none, I would be looking for a bone-in motion.
Are we doing all these? Matt?
Yes.
Anyone else want to take a stab at it?
Big shoes to fill on that.
All right, one more time. I'll make a motion that we move into executive session for the purposes of reviewing executive session minutes for discussion on Chapter 61 parcels Orange Street and Southeast Main Street. We're going to talk some potential litigation. We'll also talk about contract negotiations with the fire chief, John Furno, and the town administrator, Matt Wojcik. And then we'll leave executive session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing as none, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Postma, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Morris, aye.
Bone and I.
Smith, aye.